New threat from President Obama. He says he will veto two Republican bills. Both bills would put new limits on the president's executive powers. And a short time ago, the House passing Representative Ron DeSantis' bill by a vote of 244 to 171. His bill requires the administration to report to Congress whenever a federal official decides not to enforce laws. And yesterday, of course, the House passed Representative Trey Gowdy's bill. Now, that's different. That would allow the House or the Senate to sue a president for failing to execute the laws or for abusing his power. And Representative Ron DeSantis joins us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out, yours does seem rather unwieldy. Like when they have to report to Congress every time they do something.
A policy of non-enforcement. So when you were a prosecutor, you may not take every.
But anyway,
or prosecutors would do that. You may take a case or not. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like with the business mandate with Obamacare. We're just not going to enforce it for 2 years. And it's important because the Wall Street Journal pointed this out yesterday. They're now doing these stealth delays of Obamacare where they're burying this in a footnote in some unrelated piece of regulation. And at some point, we obviously are trying to judge his authority to do this, but we actually need to know what he's even doing, and they haven't been forward with that. So basically, we're saying when you're doing this, you need to report to Congress like attorney generals have done when they've declined to force statutes due to constitutional concerns in the past.
So basically, you want to know beforehand, you don't want to stumble upon it after the fact.
Right, or hear from a media leak or find it in an unrelated document. That's just not good governance.
If a U.S. attorney decides because of the volume of cases in his or her office, they're not going to prosecute anyone who has less than an ounce of cocaine, is that something that you would expect to be reported?
I don't think so because with the drug stuff, there's concurrent jurisdiction. So states a lot of times will do the smaller amounts, and that's been standard practice. I do think if a U.S. attorney were to say we're not going to enforce money laundering laws anymore, that would be something that obviously Congress would need to be notified of.
For I assume the president here would say, I'm enforcing Obamacare. I've decided that it's for this particular moment. This is not, this won't work, or we're going to delay this, or for humanitarian reasons, or for whatever reason. Is that what you're talking about? I mean, every time he picks and chooses in the statute, you say he's got to go to you first.
Well, he's rewriting the statute because the statute's very clear in these instances that when it should apply. He's delaying it for a year, 2 years. And, of course, there's a political motivation for this to try to save some of the members of his own party. So, absolutely, if you're amending the law or you're suspending the law, that's much different than exercising discretion. You can exercise discretion how to enforce the law. You can't exercise discretion about whether to enforce the law.
I think, and we're going to cover this in the next segment, I think Senator Obama might vote for your bill.
We got 18 Democrats in the House.
But I mean, when he was in the Senate, he was always very worried about presidential power, about presidents overstepping the power.
There's no doubt about it. All the statements Trey Gowdy read on the House floor yesterday was great. He said, hey, I'm not going to tell you who it is. Every one of them was Barack Obama, and he would have agreed with us on everything and probably would have even been further on our side than a lot of we were. So
you got 18 Democrats?
18 Democrats.
That's even more, I think, than Congressman Gowdy got on his.
I think he
only got 5. He got 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
All right, well, it's going to go over to the Senate. Any hope in the Senate for you?
They may be able to offer it as an amendment, someone like Mike Lee, who I've talked to about this, and I think it would probably get the vote. So the question is, will Reid succeed in blocking it from ever coming to a vote? And he may be able to do that because that's how he's been running the Senate.
Well, I can see it. I don't like those little sneaky footnotes when they do things on the side. I can see it. It's not very transparent. They ought to at least just speak up when they're going to do something about something so important as this statute. But we'll see what happens. It is. I have to sort of think yours through. It does seem a little unwieldy at times, but anyway.
Well, it's only unwieldy if they're not enforcing a lot of laws. If they're going to enforce the law faithfully, then it's not going to be much of a burden.
Good point. Anyway, nice to see you.